Wow, you bring Tobin Bell back into the Saw series to play Jigsaw, and the film does fantastically. Who would have thought? Huh. It's almost like maybe they killed him off too fucking soon in the original series and now they're starting to regret it. Welcome, everybody. We're here to talk about Saw 10, technically Saw 2. Welcome to the prequel. They brought back the Red Gear logo. They brought back the red. 10 out of 10. This movie's fantastic. Love it. Alright, so let's just get this out of the way now. If you haven't seen this film, go do it before you watch this review, okay? I'm not trying to spoil anything, and this is the first time in a long time I've actually been able to recommend that an audience goes to the theater to see a Saw film, so take advantage, do it while you can, do it while you have the chance, guys. You're not going to want to watch this review without watching the film first. That's right, everybody. Almost 20 years after the original Saw film's initial release, we are here at Saw 10, sorry, which is technically Saw 2, so it's a prequel to 3 and everything following, the sequel to Saw 1, so it's going to follow our adventures of John Kramer and Amanda Young as they set out into the world after the first Saw film and kind of set up more traps in an unexplored story that we haven't heard before. And this film sees John Kramer himself travel all the way to Mexico in hope of a cure for his cancer that is not legal, that is not approved by the FDA. So he's going to take his chances and go down to Mexico and hopefully they can help him. But, you know, if they did help him, then we wouldn't have Saw 3 through 9. And then none of those films would make any sense or have any continuity. And we can't go and retcon the entire series this early, can we? Long story short, though, John Kramer, aka Jigsaw as we all know and love him, makes his way down to Mexico. The treatment, let's just say, doesn't go as planned. I won't give away too much on exactly what happens there, but it doesn't go as planned, and Jigsaw's a little bit pissed off that he still has brain cancer. So he's got to capture and kill everybody, of course, because that's what Jigsaw does. And on that note of capturing and killing everybody, oh boy does it get real. These are not your Saw 5, 6, and 7 traps that are just overdone and look like you needed an entire team of mechanical engineers to do. No, 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 no. You could go to Home Depot and pull off a lot of the stuff that happened in here. So it's pretty grimy, pretty gruesome, pretty brutal overall. There's not a lot of clean happening in this film, and they have definitely brought back the blood, the gore, and the pain for this one. That is a fact. And speaking of blood, gore, and pain, the practical effects in this one are amazing. I would argue to say, even though I don't know for a fact, probably 80-some% of the effects used in this film were practical. I would say with some added CGI, but most of these looked like the original Saw 1 through 3. They seemed to stay away from the CGI. It looked very realistic. It was very well done. There was a couple scenes where maybe you could tell there was some CGI added in, but nothing atrocious, nothing offensive, anything that I would say hurt the film in any way. And I was very, very happy to see them return to using more practical effects and less CGI to fill in, because, oh man, does some of this get so real. Severed limbs? Got it. Somebody lost a head? Check. Somebody had to dig into their own skin with a knife? It wouldn't be a Saw film without it, right? And as I said before, with the scope and the scale of all this, the traps certainly felt scaled back. This certainly felt like it could be the second entry in the series like it was meant to be, because they were not overdone, they weren't overblown, they didn't go crazy with the traps. Like I said, a lot of this feels like just a basic knowledge of a little bit of mechanics and engineering. You could do so much of this stuff by yourself. Not that I would ever recommend doing that. It's going to land you in a lot of trouble. It's really fucked up. Don't Jigsaw people, okay? All right? Don't do it. But with that said, it was very nice to see less of the elaborate traps and more, hey, we're going to hand you a wire attached to 2 sticks and tell you to cut your own leg in half with it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your head. And this installment also sees the return of everybody's favorite face trap, but it's been beefed up. The spikes have been removed, and now we have grill burners in it. Or, better yet, how could we forget radiation machine turned death? And along with a bunch of other traps that we won't go into because it would just take up all our time if I sat here and talked about them, and you should see the film yourself if you haven't already. I think I put up a spoiler thing somewhere. You should have already heeded that warning. If you haven't, go watch the film. It's worth watching in theaters, like I've said. But on that note, one final one I will talk about, they brought back the classic gas trap because it's a Saw film. You have to put people inside of a room and tell them that they're going to die if they don't do something by inhaling toxic gas, right? And on the note of the classic gas trap room, somebody actually does survive that one. I won't give away who, but there is a survivor from that trap, and I do believe this film actually leaves us with not one, but two survivors by the end of this movie, which I'm curious to see if that's going to carry over into a follow up to this movie being Saw 11, and if that would technically become Saw 3, or if they do another time jump. Because if it becomes Saw 3, then we could see the return of the two survivors from this film. And if it doesn't, then I guess we probably won't see them again or maybe know what happens, because I don't think that they're ever mentioned in Saw 3 through 9. So they might just be one offs where they survived, went to the hospital, and they were healed, and they just went on about their lives. Who knows? And I also can't forget, if we're talking about surviving characters, everybody's favorite survivor came back for this film. That's right, everybody. Amanda Young is back in Saw 10. Since it's a follow up to Saw 1, of course, it only makes sense that we would see one of the games that she helps partake in, as Jigsaw explains to her that she'll be taking over. We see a little bit more of the relationship between Amanda and Jigsaw as well, how she's kind of come to maybe look up to him as a mentor, or even though the film doesn't directly state, possibly even a father figure. There is a bond between them. You do see it in the film, and I won't delve too much into how that plays out, but they do care for one another, despite being sick, twisted, fucked up, sadistic murderers. Even though they like to say that they're not because they don't kill people, which Amanda, that's bullshit, 'cause Amanda does later. But we won't talk about that. Point is, Amanda's back. On top of that, we do have another returning survivor as well. Won't give that away, should be kind of obvious if you've seen the franchise. But at any rate, stick around for the end credits, because there is going to be something there you're going to want to see. It's about the mid-credit scene, actually, not the end credit. But stick around for that. There is a little bonus scene after the film possibly sets up for Saw 11. If that little bonus scene is anything to go off of, I think that would technically become the third Saw film. So I think it would be a prequel to all the others. It would become right after 10, which is 2, so it'd be 3. It's getting very convoluted at this point, but it's Saw, so we love it. Now, with all that kind of said and out of the way, I will go into the fact that there are some minor gripes. Okay, it is a Saw film, so there's always something that you could nitpick, I'm sure. I still find this to be one of the best installments, probably within the last 5, in my personal opinion. Disagree with me in the comments. Feel free, I don't care. It is what it is. It's all opinionated, all right? But with that said, there is still some issues that I have with it. One of those being the brain surgery trap, which I won't delve into. Again, go watch the film. Spoilers and shit, you know? But asking somebody to do what they had to do there with the brain surgery trap, that kind of seems like a lose-lose. Jigsaw wasn't really into killing people just to kill them like Amanda was. And that trap just seemed kind of unwinnable, really. It didn't seem like something that there was any good way out of. Even if you came out of it, you're probably still brain dead. You're probably going to kill yourself in the process of doing it. So even if the timer ran out, I imagine that you die. And that was kind of a gripe. It just felt a bit overkill for Jigsaw, who usually let people live if they actually pass the test. The second thing probably being the ending. Not that I didn't like the ending, don't get me wrong. It ended very solidly. It set up for a follow up film. The ending itself wasn't bad. It was just a matter of, if you've seen Saw movies, this one was rather predictable. You could see it coming kind of from a mile away, which isn't terrible. It's not to say that it ruined the film or anything. Overall, like I've stated before, very much enjoyed it. But there were just some leniencies taken. You know, I don't think that letting the guy in the building that's carrying a gun was the smartest decision. I don't think it's something that John Kramer actually would have taken a risk or a chance on. But this is technically the second Saw film, so he is still relatively new per se to being Jigsaw. So maybe he was taking a risk that he wouldn't have later in his career. I can't say for certain. But letting an outside source into the building where you are currently killing people, and that person having a gun, whether you think you can get the jump on them or not, just seems like an unnecessary risk, as does one other thing. That one other thing being that you know that there is a little kid who shows up to this building every day, very early in the morning, and you have to try to set your entire game to be done and over with, and everyone inside dead before this small child shows up, which leads into a huge plot point. I mean, I understand why it was done this way. Major plot point towards the end of the movie, why this child shows up. And it took Saul to a place that it had never taken it before, by including a child in the film and actually kind of putting them through a trap scenario. Which I guess Saul 2 kind of did, but he was kind of an older teen from what I... This was a kid. Like, this was a legit kid. So that took it to a different level where you're like, oh shit, man, like a kid might die in this. So that made it interesting. but it also seemed like rather naive of John Kramer to establish a game somewhere that you know that this small child is going to show up to play soccer. That's all. But other than that, I really didn't have too many complaints about the film. I actually quite enjoyed it. Again, I would recommend everybody go see it. And I think we'll kind of close it out on that note. I don't want to go around in circles and repeat myself here. Love the film. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, I would say for a Saw movie, I'll put it up there at like a solid 7. It was very well crafted. I hope that the same writers, producers, etc. come back for a Saw 11. Because I was really surprised with what they did with it, especially given that some of them had worked on other not so, in my mind, fantastic Saw films. So kudos to the writers, directors. The atmosphere felt like a Saw movie again. The way that it was pan framed, edited, everything. It felt like your old school Saw movies as much as I think that we can possibly get it to in 2023. So yeah, that's it, guys. It's going to close it out. Really enjoyed the film. Hope you guys go see it. Let me know in the comments down below if you have seen it, what your thoughts are on it, and if you guys would be interested in seeing a follow-up in Saw 11, because I think that that's probably where we're headed next. This film seems to be doing really well, and let's keep in our hopes that even though Tobin Bell is now like 81, that he can keep pushing out some Jigsaw movies, man. Because I would love to see his character make a huge return and see this series run on. I don't care if we're at movie 10. I love them. I'm gonna keep watching them. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for watching. Peace.